And ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers.
I'm Jarif.
And today we are here for another Twilight Zone episode. We've been knocking out the hits for a while. This is one of the most hollowed episodes of the show, one of the most famous twists, one of the most different. Geez, I'm good at English. One of the sort of stylistic detours of the show, all in service of a very, very, very simple idea that is just so incredibly well made by all involved that it grows very elevated, and then we get a great twist on top. When I studied in Philadelphia, I was very fortunate to randomly be in America for it was the 60th anniversary, anyway, whatever it was. And I went to the cinema and they showed 6 episodes with the Serling intros, and The Invaders was one of them. And The Invaders was always an episode that I enjoyed, but on the big screen, and to have none of it be diminished, because heading in, I thought on a big screen, are those tiny little robots going to look even more ridiculous? And yet they just do such a wonderful job of making them still remain absolutely terrifying.
It's funny because watching it, I thought this episode would work. Well, already feels pretty cinematic in terms of, like, it just made me, like the lighthouse, where it's like a little cabin, black and white.
Well,
it kind of reminded me of that.
Well, it's like the very best Twilight Zones. It's deceptively simple. This is what I wrote about it years ago for my rankings. This obscenely simple tale of one woman fighting off creatures from another planet will never not fail to shock, repulse, and riddle with tension any viewer who dares to enter the small world of a woman all alone in her shack with two truly terrifying visitors / invaders. Agnes Moorehead is that woman and gives us some of the greatest physical acting of her career, with the episode being almost wholly silent by one line of off-screen dialogue, as well as Serling's opening and closing narrations. The story and its wicked twist come from Twilight Zone alum Richard Matheson. However, the episode's greatest strengths do lie in its visuals, with Douglas Hayes taking on the challenge openly of making 2 of the smallest little toy robots you've ever seen 2 of the scariest creatures the small screen ever had upon it. By the time the final reveal comes around, which is a doozy, it actually doesn't matter what the final twist is. After all, the piece up to that point has been so supremely sensational, but that final twist is exactly what it should be, the ultimate cherry on top. A feat to the talent of all involved. The Invaders was not an episode you'd seen before.
Nope.
And did you guess the twist, or did the twist shock you?
It didn't shock me. It was one of my guesses.
This is the thing. When we are so well versed as we are in the world of Twilight Zone, I can't remember. There was some comedian, and I don't want to steal other people's sketches, but I can't remember who it was in this moment. And they were saying how we, over lockdown, how they were watching all of them, and how they largely come down to 3 different twists of this is Earth. Oh wait, it's not Earth. Or he's actually the devil, or he is God, or so many of them.
The people are the aliens the whole time.
Yeah, the people who we think are humanoid are actually just humanoid aliens. Yeah. And I think with us only doing the what we're calling the top 50, we kind of underestimate how many of the other episodes there are where these same twists are done lesser.
Yeah.
So, like, as somebody who's seen all 156 episodes of that initial run, I've seen this twist over and over again, and in many different forms, of course. But there is something about, like, the Invaders, or even, like, I think it's not called the Little People. Maybe it is called the Little People. I can't remember. But I mean, the Little People. I'm calling it the Little People, but whatever it's called, it's almost exactly the same as this. Of
I
you know,
mean, even like what was it, Third from the Sun
yeah,
it has the same twist, and it's probably one of the earliest examples, but like I think it still does it pretty well to the point where like I'm not like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's another we were aliens the whole time episode.
this one has. So I obviously listened to everything. I watched everything. The interview with Douglas Hayes, and his focus was on the furniture and the items, and that they had to be universal, so that in any civilization, a
Universal
table
are
has to be a
kind of
table.
weird looking.
Yes, I thought that with the
Yeah.
knife.
Yes, that was what I was gonna say.
Hmm.
The knife that kind of looks like a cookery knife, but it's
Kind of
also not.
futurist, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was going on this point, which I think is very valid. Of like in any civilization, when it starts, table is a table, a chair is a chair, a pot is a pot, a knife is a knife. And he said there was no style that could be attributed to any time or space. And I actually think they do a very good job of this. I mean, we've immediately jumped to the twist,
Yeah.
which is fair. But the twist removed, even if this was just a real just pot boiler episode, and Agnes Moorehead did speak like English, and it was a tale of just a spaceship coming to Earth.
Oh no, I'm getting attacked by these little toddler robots.
I'm going to go, oh, oh. I'm not going to speak. Did that throw you off, her not speaking, or was it believable enough on a first watch?
I think it lended to me going, there's going to be a twist here.
Yeah. So Agnes Moorehead, one of the great actresses of her time, incredible on stage, incredibly on screen. She was a member of the Mercury Theatre Company, Orson Welles' theatre company. She plays Kane's mother in Citizen Kane. And she initially refused the script because of the lack of dialogue. Douglas Hayes, pardon me, Douglas Hayes said that she came to him and said, well, I've been reading the script and I've been trying to find my part. And she was hot off a very well acclaimed radio play called Sorry, Wrong Number, which was obviously a radio play and was just her. So she's hot off being critically acclaimed for 50 minutes of just her voice. And now she's being asked to do this. And I mean, obviously, you know, I don't want to psychoanalyze any actor, but, you know, this is an incredibly accomplished stage performer. And like she previously studied under Marcel Marceau in Paris, studying mime. And I mean, obviously, she did rise to the challenge eventually. But this episode, to me, reeks of a great challenge for an actor and something that like you'd want to grab with both. I mean, she does eventually, obviously, but that initial, I guess, that initial reluctance is human nature, or at least.
I guess I could also like imagine that in her head she was like, oh, it's been 30 years since I've had to be a mime and not talk, and now I've got to not fucking say a word, like it's in a TV episode. Like, I mean, maybe she was just extremely comfortable with having a lot of lines at the time.
Is it her alienistic noises that actually not give the twist away, but lean to the twist too soon? Because her noises, because if she was just like we've seen it, we like this is obviously credited often as the most solo Twilight Zone episode. You know, there is very little dialogue. Well, there isn't any apart from the one offline, off-screen thing. Whereas we've had, you know, episodes like Where Is Everybody Before, where the whole time he's like, oh, how are you? Oh, I really am stuck in this small and he's talking to himself the entire time. And it kind of has that Castaway Wilson thing of an audience isn't going to watch somebody alone for 2 hours not talking. Or even Nervous Man in a $4 Room that Douglas Hayes also directed, where the whole episode is built around, you know, a man talking to himself in the mirror. And obviously that man talks back and that's the episode. But there is, I guess, a reluctance cinematically to to have such a non-verbal thing. And so you have Agnes Moorehead doing these screeches and noises and voices that this is the thing. Another thing, we're watching it in the context of the history of the show. on a first watch, would we see those as unhumanoid voices, or would we take them as part and parcel with the rest of the show?
True.
And when it was adapted into a radio play, a lot of these were adapted into radio plays, and it was changed from an old non-speaking woman to an elderly couple. I haven't had a chance to listen to the radio drama, but I just can't imagine that being in any way successful at all. What's the point of that? I don't know.
Fantastic in the worst way.
Other things from that Douglas Hayes interview. So he planned, again, to appeal to Agnes, I guess. He planned and staged these huge, long takes with multiple cameras. And so a lot of it was done in sort of stage practice of the cameras were there and they were fixed, and then these scenes would play out. But I always see this as a very visual episode. Douglas Hayes, this is the last episode that Hayes would direct, even though he directed some of the very best of series 1 and 2. He directed The After Hours, he directed Eye of the Beholder, Nervous Man in a $4 Room, and The Howling Man, amongst others. And this is the final episode that he will direct. He did work with Serling again for Night Gallery, so I don't think there was any uncomfortability or not disturbance, you know what I'm trying to say, disagreements there. But if you look at those episodes, specifically like Eye of the Beholder, After Hours, and Nervous Man in a $4 Room, and these are episodes of a visual degree of difficulty that a lot of the other episodes rather, don't have. And so it's like, oh yeah, bring Doug in to do the really hard shit. and he always obviously
it's like that one director on Game of Thrones that just only directed like the battle episodes.
You know, if you're good at your stuff, you're good at your stuff. But like you look at Eye of the Beholder, which is an episode that still I think remains incredibly impactful, even if in HD, you can kind of. This is again we go back to the same thing that I always say, which is these episodes were viewed to be watched once, maybe twice, on a terrible TV in the corner of your room, which I'm sure in many ways made these episodes scarier. And I mean, you see one string on the UFO to have it whir around, but this is an episode that is so stripped back. And the toy, I always call them toys because they're, I wouldn't say ridiculous, but like so small and
they're so cute. I want one.
Yeah. And that's obviously the joy of the episode. And this is an episode
I want to get one with a massive knife and just stick it in the corner of my room.
Poor Olivia is going to be frightened to death. So let's talk about the two invaders. The tiny astronauts were actually finger puppets made of foam, which took 2 hands to operate. 2 fingers worked the arms and 2 worked the legs. And they were often led actually by Douglas Hayes, who would then wear black sleeves to have the rest of his arm meld into the black night. And he had a little button that activated the ray gun lights. And he was used on this episode, he believes, because he was an art director previously.
Right.
And so he actually designed the Invaders. And then they were made by William Tuttle. Pardon me. Then they were made by William Tuttle of the makeup department, who also did the work on Eye of the Beholder. And they were based largely on the Michelin tire men, because again, we go back to what he was saying with the furniture, in that it's got to be believable that it's humanoid, but for the twist, come off as completely alien. And I think it pulls off both, in the sense of, I believe it for the most part that could be an alien suit. However, on a first watch, I've ruined so many of these twists for myself. I used to Google before I had the Blu-rays when I was a little kid, and I watched the episode, and I would Google on Wikipedia, and I would read all the Wikipedia breakdowns of the episodes just to get all the twists. And then by the time I'm watching them as a grown adult or whatever, I so many of them were ruined for me. But they still work to this day. And I guess without all that context, if we showed this to somebody, did you show this to Olivia?
No. No. I'm on my own in-house at the moment.
I'll be there soon, Jay. We'll be filming very funny stuff soon. This is another stylistically different one, in that it jumps straight in with the Serling. This is one of the out-of-the-way places, the unvisited places, bleak, wasted, dying. This is a farmhouse, handmade, crude, a house without electricity or gas, a house untouched by progress. This is the woman who lives in the house, a woman who's been alone for many years, a strong, simple woman whose only problem up until this point has been that of acquiring enough food to eat, a woman about to face terror, which is even now coming at her from the Twilight Zone. And he, is available for the shots for the filming, and he walks in. And I do like when he's available for the shoot, and he can fully come in, and Agnes Moorehead's very clearly in that same shot, and then we open, and we get this establishing of the knives, and to be frank, it's not necessarily dull, but it's quite slow. And it's setting up all the things, but we're seeing her cook a meal, and we're establishing the knives. I'm pretty sure we'd have given credence and understood that there were knives in the house, but we're establishing the knives. And then we get this whirring that unsettles her ears, and then the thud, the crash, and the dust, and she ducks under the table. And then she climbs up the ladder with trepidation, with this flaming lantern in hand. And then we get this incredibly unceremonious reveal of the UFO. And we fade to black. And because they've already done the Serling monologue straight away, we just get this incredibly unceremonious fade to black before the prologue. And there's no music at this stage. And then we get the reveal of the tiny invader. And again, there's no music, there's no huge sting. And do you think it's by design that the invaders come off to begin with as sort of small and ridiculous, or do you think they're supposed to be frightening from the off?
That's a tough question, because part of me in my head was like, maybe this is actually an episode about, I don't know, maybe Rod Serling loves mice or something. And he's like, maybe we shouldn't attack mice with knives in our house. And
well, we've done back to back the 2 episodes that go against his lifelong ethos of we shouldn't be afraid of the other.
Yeah.
And well, no, actually, this episode, and this is what I've noticed on a rewatch, is that little tiny invader just stumbles up to her to start with, and she immediately kicks him down the hatch.
Yes, I know.
Which I think
so. Part of me was going to go, oh, this is going to be another. People are stupid, just because she just kicked it down the hatch.
And in many ways, I can't even say that that's like a fault with the episode or an error with the episode, because that's probably exactly what I do myself. Who wouldn't? You've got a UFO.
I mean, if that was my way out, I probably wouldn't have kicked it down the hatch. Yeah, which is the first thought that went in my head, which was you're gonna try and go through there in a second, and there'll already be one down there.
Well, this is the thing, is that she doesn't know at this stage that she needs to escape the attic, because then she makes the first attack, knocks one of them down, and then we get the one more invader in the corner, and we get again snap zoom in, no music, there's no sting, there's no nothing. And this is an episode with such beautiful music by Jerry Goldsmith, and it's bizarre that we've done To Serve Man before this, because a lot of the cues from To Serve Man are from this. This is the original episode that Jerry Goldsmith wrote that music for, and it's kind of like we're again of an era where Nicholas Britell, writes whole, he wrote the Succession score, and he will write new music for series 4 that is the most beautiful music you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah.
And that's the Succession score. You don't then turn on Yellowstone or whatever and hear the music from Succession. But as I was listening to another commentary with Gary Gianni and John Burlingham, who wrote a book called Television's Greatest Hits, and he was talking about, you know, the era of CBC and that sort of era of 60 television, where the minute that Goldsmith writes all these cues, they then go into the CBS library. So they're not only being reused in other Twilight Zone episodes, for instance, To Serve Man, they're also being used in other CBS shows, such as The Fugitive. So, which is, again, a bizarre, and again, this is the last of Goldsmith's scores for the show. So in both cases of him and Douglas Hayes, you've got incredibly influential writers of the music, creators to the, creators to the Twilight Zone who are now gone forever.
Yeah.
Pardon me. So Goldsmith was, pardon me, Goldsmith was actually no longer contracted to CBS, but was brought back for, he believes, the uniqueness of this episode. And I can understand why. There's a, you know, again, this is an episode that is in by the end, it's entirely, not entirely, but is heavily dependent on that score.
Yeah.
And so she knocks him down, and then she heads down, and then she picks up the ray gun. And again, the ray gun is just so pathetic. And it just has that little beep, beep, beep. And she's like, and she thinks it's just a tiny little shitty thing. And then we see the boils on her arm, and then the boils on her neck. And again, that just slow, plodding reveal and descent into, oh, this isn't good at all. Did you? I feel the stakes. By like 10 minutes in, I always feel the stakes of this episode, and I think it becomes quite scary. However, I have talked with people before who just can't get over the
little people,
the little toy robots. What about you, Jay?
Well, no, I think I did at a certain point. I think mainly when they got the knife for me.
Well, like, this is Well, it does eventually so gloriously have immense stakes, and it just grows and grows and grows, and gets worse and worse and worse. And so to the point that you have no choice. You have no choice but to believe the stakes, because they're the stakes. Like, they, no matter how ridiculous these two little robots look, they are doing serious shit. And then she searches the room with a huge spoon, and again we open the door and there's another invader, and then the ad break comes with her knocking over the candle and that light effect that they do multiple times, which is where she's holding the candle and she enters one room and all the lights, studio lights, come on, and then she enters another room, and which isn't as seamless perhaps as some of George C. Clement's other photography of the show has been before, but does work for the most part. And then we head into this ad break. At this sort of stage, what did you think the arc of the episode was going to be? I mean, I know you pegged early that it could possibly have been a twist of very.
I mean, I think, I don't know. I was like, are they gonna kill her? And then at the end, like, someone will come inside and be like, damn, I guess she shouldn't have locked herself away from society or something.
True. But, no, we've seen that before again.
But I think still in my head, I was kind of like, it's going to be a big thing, and then there'll be a twist at the end that'll make me go, ooh, which there kind of was, but I enjoyed the big thing before the ooh anyway.
Which is kind of what we vouched for with To Serve Man.
Of
both of these episodes, I feel, kind of get reduced in the. I think this less so than To Serve Man. To Serve Man really does have a lot of detractors, but this one just moves in Hayes' direction, and we've not actually said the name of Richard Matheson yet, who I didn't have a chance to read the script of this, but obviously, you know, we focus so many times on screenwriters being dialogue writers and all that sort of thing. And you could very easily just put this down to, oh, Matheson came up with a good script. That'd be a good twist. But I haven't had a chance to read the script. But so much of a script is in that stage direction and is in the building of tension, and his ability to instill those props and instill the stakes can't be underestimated in this regard. We come back from the break, and the invader that drops on her, and when she's like writhing on the bed, and again she just chucks it, throws it away into the corner, and it's one of those things of moments like that can reduce the stakes so much, whilst also still heightening them, because you, on one hand, see them being so easily thrown away into a corner or something like that, and you go, oh, these are so pathetic. And
I mean, this is where it probably works more for me, because I'm a massive Chucky fan, so I'm used to seeing tiny little things get thrown into a corner and then run back at you with a knife. But
maybe that's our change for the episode. Maybe at the very end, instead of Douglas Hayes in a cameo voicing it should have been Brad Dourif.
It should have been Brad Dourif going, "Oh, you motherfucker!
Yeah, you got it, I didn't know you loved it. Is that your right? If we just did the top 4 of Chucky, Halloween, Friday, and Nightmare, is that your top series?
Yeah,
I think it has the.
I'm pretty much most to date and most up to date on it as well. I'm 1 season behind the TV show, and that's it.
Oh, it's so good, Jay.
Yeah,
it's so good.
What, are you up to date on the TV show?
No, but
okay.
I think I'm about the same as you. I've watched the first series on Blu-ray. I've bought the second series on Blu-ray, and series 3 is coming out at current.
Yeah, so I've watched season 2.
Yeah,
it's just season 3 I haven't started yet.
I just love. Been rewatching the Friday films as well, and I'm just a horror whore.
Yeah, me too.
It doesn't matter if they're terrible.
Me too.
It doesn't matter if they're bad. I'm in. And Chucky has that great knowingness of a knowingness about it, rather, so that you don't have to worry about it necessarily being bad.
Like even a Bride and Seed I enjoy because because they're so stupid.
Which is the one where John Waters has a cameo.
Oh God,
I think that's Bride. I think it's
yes.
Bride.
Wait, who does he play at the end? I know. Oh, Seed of Chucky.
And then you get the great, yes, throwing things again. I think, and it's the same thing as I'll stick with the Chucky point. It's the same thing of so low stakes. It's a toy. It looks like a toy. It acts like a toy. This grown woman can surely dispense that, and then slowly but surely. I mean, again, going back to Chucky, is there a greater scare? I don't think there's a greater scare moment in any of those original movies than when she turns the toy over and there's no batteries in it. Anyway. But back to the Invaders. She then drops. She then gets like stabbed in the leg, and she's screeching. There's incredible pain in her leg, and she grabs the axe, and there's the hole in the wall. And this is where she reaches for the wood trap and gets knifed. And then we get the great scare. And we can ignore how can these little toys hold that knife. And then we get again the candle effects lighting room to room. And this is when she manages to trap one of them in the bed sheets. And the knife
knocks the candle off onto the floor that doesn't set the building on fire.
That again. When I rewatched this in the cinema, and I hadn't watched it in a while, I was like, "Does the place burn down?" I can't remember. Does the place burn?
Yeah, I thought it was going there, and then no.
No, she wraps it up in a bedsheet and just wails.
It's like the end of that Irish play,
The Lieutenant of Inishmore.
No, the one where he thinks the baby is the reincarnation of.
Oh, we're Sinn Féin. Oh, when we all watched it in COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was the guy from Crying Game in it. Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes. So she wails the
Yeah.
little man.
And the knife pierces through the bag, but she just keeps with. And it was this moment in one of the commentaries where Mark Scott Zickery was talking with somebody I can't remember the name of, and he was saying how is this a little bit ridiculous? And then I remember, and then I go, no, no, and he just falls straight back into it because you believe the stakes. And then she manages to trap one in the box and put it on the fire and the explosion in the wall. And again, just such a beautiful ratcheting of believable stakes of, yeah, I would try this. If I had them right, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. And none of them works. And it's around this time that we get the zoomed in close up of Agnes Moorehead and her hair's now down and she's now sweating profusely and she's got that fear of God in her.
Drooling.
And she's got the axe and you're like, yeah. Again, I've said many, many times that my favorite plays are plays that start in one room and there's four people and then by the end of it, the room's messy and they're all drunk.
Yeah.
And this has that quality with the hair down and she's just, and then she realizes then she hears the noises of them heading back upstairs. And she's like, oh, they're trying to escape. And now, again, her mentality's changed of it's not that she's gone from wanting, presumably, for the invaders to just disappear and leave her alone to now, no, I'm going to get that other invader. I'm not going to let them get away. And so she goes up with the axe and just absolutely wails on the UFO again. And just like full blown Lecter, Silence of the Lambs, where she's losing breath. And she's like,
Yep.
and she's just wailing with that axe. And then we get this noise, which is voiced by Douglas Hayes, the director. He says, come in, come in. Do you read me? Gresham is dead. Repeat, Gresham is dead. The ship's destroyed. Incredible race of giants here. Race of giants. No counterattack. Repeat, no counterattack. Too much for us. Too powerful. Stay away. Gresham and I, we're finished. We're finished. Stay away. Stay away. And then we get this great sort of zoomed, slow crawl of the camera, which is, I guess, a bit of a cheat because earlier on the UFO, it doesn't say that.
Yeah.
And we get US Air Force Space Probe #1, which, as we've already talked about, is one of those things of it would have been a great episode otherwise, but it's just a great little cherry on top. And then talking about Jerry Goldsmith again, we get this incredibly slow tolling of the bells in the soundtrack as Agnes Moorehead just panting goes back down the hatch, leaving the UFO. She's just going to leave. Again, we don't know what life is like on her planet. And this battle of the wills, this battle of David versus Goliath in so many ways has come to its ultimate end, and Agnes Moorehead just shrinks down the hatch, and then we get sailing again in one of I think one of the most long-winded outros we've ever had. These are the invaders, the tiny beings from the tiny place called Earth, who would take the giant step across the sky to the question marks that sparkle and beckon from the vastness of the universe only to be imagined. Okay, pretty good. You could have ended there. No, the invaders, who found out that by a one-way ticket to the stars, beyond has the ultimate price tag. Could have ended there. No. And we have just seen it entered in a ledger that covers all the transactions in the universe, a bill stamped paid in full, and to be found unified in the Twilight Zone, unfiled, sorry, in the Twilight Zone. And that is almost like a parody level of when people parody the Twilight Zone intro and outro thing. I'm like, okay, Rod, you could have been done. I always find it interesting when, when like Richard Matheson writes these episodes or any of the other great, writers, Charles Beaumont, of like them adopting Serling's voice. And there's like dueling reports of sometimes Serling would add the opening and closing narration. Sometimes it was like Matheson or Charles Beaumont taking on his voice and doing it themselves. I don't know whether this episode was the latter or not.
They just put Rod says Rod things
into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
where do you think on the ranking, Jay? This is one of
Mm,
the most iconics, but it's not personally one of my favorites.
yeah.
I'd maybe go. Is this as low as 18? I don't know. I really like Third from the Sun. I really like Where Is Everybody? I really like People Are Like Olo. I mean, could this? I don't know. Where are you thinking?
I can go for 18.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'm interested after all of this to go back to the rankings I did way back at Christopher Court because I did those rankings so long ago, and now rewatch after rewatch after rewatch, where they would like. Let's have a look. I put the Invaders. I put it obviously in my. It didn't make my top 20 of all time. I now ranked it. I ranked it number 8 in my top 15 of series 2. Above that, I put Nick of Time, Obsolete Man, Long Distance Call, The Howling Man, I Have the Beholder, The Silence, and Will the Real Nation Please Stand Up. So currently we're we're repeating myself currently. Below that, I put A Penny for Your Thoughts and Static, The Trouble with Templeton, Shadow Play, Night of the Meek, Nervous Man in a $4 Room, and The Thing About Machines. So I'm interested. Is the great path of all to just end up repeating oneself. But who knows? Maybe we will make great diversions. And we will find out soon enough. Thank you very much, Jen.